The 1977 Pontiac Trans Am did not just survive the Malaise era when everyone else gave up, it thrived, becoming the most iconic muscle car of the late 70s, and proving that sometimes the right car at the right moment can change everything. While Ford had essentially abandoned the Mustang's performance heritage, and Chrysler was struggling to keep its muscle cars relevant, Pontiac doubled down on the Trans Am. The timing could not have been more perfect or more unlikely. This was 1977, deep in the era of emissions controls and fuel economy mandates triggered by the 1973 OPEC oil embargo. Horsepower was at historic lows, and the muscle car was supposed to be dead. It was a far cry from Pontiac's groundbreaking GTO that had launched the muscle car era in 1964. But Pontiac had a different plan. They took their Trans Am and gave it something no other car had: a completely new front end with 4 square headlamps that set it apart from its Camaro sibling. More importantly, they created the special edition package designated Y82. It came in a striking black paint scheme with gold accents topped off with the most audacious hood graphic ever put on a production car: a massive bird decal that stretched 45.5 inches wide and 44.5 inches long across the hood. The origin of this screaming chicken is a story worth telling. General Motors designer John Schinella had been fighting his bosses for years to get this decal approved. The inspiration came from an unlikely source. Bill Porter, Pontiac's head of design, had been collecting Tiffany vases and was fascinated by their sleek, feather-like patterns. During a lunch break, he sketched out an idea and handed it to graphic designer Norm Inouye. General Motors leadership initially hated the concept. Some employees reportedly called it a sick chicken, but Schinella had an ace up his sleeve. He noticed that General Motors design chief Bill Mitchell owned a black motorcycle with gold accents, inspired by the famous John Player Special Lotus Formula One cars. So Schinella took a black Trans Am, slapped the Goldbird decal on the hood, and parked it right next to Mitchell's motorcycle at the design studio. Then he called Mitchell and told him to look out the window. That single moment got the idea approved. The car that emerged was unlike anything else on the road. Under the hood sat Pontiac's 400 cubic inch V8, available in 2 versions. The standard L78 engine produced 180 horsepower, while the optional W72 high-performance variant bumped that up to 200 horsepower at 3,600 revolutions per minute, with 325 pound-feet of torque. For those seeking ultimate power, Pontiac even offered the legendary Super Duty 455 engine in limited numbers. In California, where emissions regulations were even stricter, buyers got an Oldsmobile 403 cubic inch V8, making 185 horsepower. The signature shaker hood scoop fed cold air directly to the engine, completing the aggressive performance package. These numbers might seem modest by today's standards, but in 1977, they represented genuine performance in an era when most cars were struggling to break 150 horsepower. The Trans Am could still lay down rubber and deliver that distinctive muscle car experience that buyers craved. Production took place at the General Motors Norwood, Ohio assembly plant, where the 1977 model year started strong, with production reaching 68,744 units for the Trans Am alone, compared to the Camaro's 218,853 total sales. Of those Trans Ams, 15,567 were special edition models, these black and gold cars that would soon become legends. The base price for a Trans Am was $5,450, while the Y82 Special Edition package with Hearst T-tops cost $8,161. That might seem expensive, but buyers were willing to pay for something genuinely special. Then came May 27, 1977. That is when a little action comedy called Smokey and the Bandit hit theaters, and everything changed overnight. The film starred Burt Reynolds as the Bandit, a charming smuggler who had to transport a truck full of illegal Coors beer from Texas to Georgia while being chased by Sheriff Buford T. Justice, played by Jackie Gleason. The car Reynolds chose was a 1977 Pontiac Trans Am Special Edition. The story behind how that car ended up in the movie is fascinating. Director Hal Needham, who was also Burt Reynolds' longtime stuntman, needed what he called a down-the-road car for the Bandit character. Pontiac supplied 4 Trans Ams for filming, though Needham had originally asked for 6. Since filming began in August 1976, just before the 1977 model year officially started, the production crew had to hastily modify 1976 models to look like the new 1977 models, mainly by swapping in the updated front end. Those 4 cars took a beating during production. By the time filming wrapped, 3 had been completely destroyed, including one that met its end during the famous bridge jump scene. The 4th car was so battered that its engine would not start, and it had to be pushed into its final scenes by another vehicle. The studio later insisted that all the cars be destroyed for liability reasons. But the movie was a massive hit. Made on a budget of just $4.3 million, it grossed $127 million in North America, making it the second highest grossing film of 1977, behind only Star Wars. And suddenly everyone wanted the Bandit car. As director Hal Needham put it, sales just soared after the film's release. The numbers tell the story. Trans Am sales jumped from 68,744 in 1977 to a staggering 93,341 in 1978. That is an increase of over 35% in a single year. 1979 saw even more impressive numbers, with 117,000 Trans Ams rolling off dealer lots, the highest annual sales figure in the model's history. For the first time ever, Trans Am sales actually surpassed those of its Chevrolet Camaro sibling. Pontiac estimated that they gained an extra 25,000 Trans Am sales in 1978 alone, directly attributable to the movie's influence. Dealerships across the country were flooded with customers demanding the Bandit car. The black and gold special edition became such a cultural phenomenon that many people still refer to these cars as Bandit Edition Trans Ams, even though Pontiac never officially used that name. The success wasn't just about the movie, though. The 1977 Trans Am represented something important in American car culture. At a time when most manufacturers had given up on performance, when CAFE standards and emissions regulations seemed to be strangling the life out of American V8s, the Trans Am proved that style and attitude could still sell cars. Chuck Koch of Auto Reports captured this perfectly in March 1977 when he called the Trans Am Special Edition one of those rare cars which is more than the sum of its parts. It is a touring car, a sport coupe, the sole survivor of the muscle car era. Even the automotive press was divided on the car. Car and driver dismissed the Trans Am's graphics as cornball, but the public couldn't get enough of that enormous hood bird. Bill Mitchell himself later praised the design, telling automotive journalist Gary Witzenberg that it was terrific. It was that kind of thing that really put them ahead of Chevrolet. The Camaro didn't have anything like that. The legacy of the 1977 Trans Am extends far beyond its initial sales success. These cars have become some of the most collectible vehicles from the Malaise era. Recent auction results from Barrett-Jackson and Mecum auctions show just how much values have appreciated. Standard examples can be found starting around $29,000, but special edition models regularly sell for $60,000 to $90,000. Low-mileage examples have exceeded $100,000. And one pristine special edition with just 14 original miles sold for an astounding $440,000. The 1977 Trans Am proved that American muscle wasn't dead. It just needed the right combination of style, attitude, and cultural timing. While other manufacturers retreated from performance, Pontiac created a car that became larger than life. a rolling symbol of rebellion and freedom that resonated with millions of Americans. In saving itself, the Trans Am helped save the entire concept of the American muscle car, keeping that flame alive until the performance renaissance of the 1980s and beyond. Sometimes one car can change everything. The 1977 Pontiac Trans Am Special Edition did exactly that.